The knife slipped from my fingers and clattered against the marble countertop, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the quiet hum of the kitchen. Marcus's hand caught mine before I could even flinch, his callous palm wrapping around my wrist with a firmness that sent a jolt straight through my chest, stealing my breath. In that split second, as his thumb brushed the inside of my forearm, I knew my world had just cracked open and there was no going back. I was 19, home from my first semester at UC Berkeley, crashing back into the familiar chaos of our family's rambling craftsman house in the Oakland Hills. Dad had always said Marcus was like an uncle to me, his oldest friend from their days hustling through construction jobs in the Bay Area back, when Silicon Valley was just a bunch of apricot orchards. Marcus ran a small catering gig now, turning up at every holiday with trays of his signature grilled peaches and prosciutto, his laugh booming like summer thunder. But to me, he wasn't family. He was the man who'd slip me a wink across the dinner table, the one whose stories about hitchhiking through the redwoods made my heart race in ways I couldn't explain to anyone, least of all myself. That 4th of July barbecue was supposed to be just another gathering. Neighbors in faded American flags, kids chasing fireflies in the backyard, the grill's smoky haze mingling with the salty Pacific breeze. Dad clapped Marcus on the back as they cracked open cold IPAs, reminiscing about the time they rebuilt a deck during a rainstorm. Their voices thick with that easy brotherhood I'd envied since I was old enough to notice how Marcus looked at the world, steady, unapologetic, alive. Mom fluttered around with her potato salad, oblivious as always, while my little sister, Mia, 12 and all gangly limbs, begged for Eskimo rays before the sun dipped below the Golden Gate. I hung back, nursing a soda on the porch steps, watching Marcus move through the crowd like he owned the evening. He was 42, broad-shouldered from years of hauling lumber and kneading dough, his dark hair threaded with silver that caught the fading light. There was something magnetic about him, the way his flannel shirt hugged his frame, sleeves rolled to reveal forearms etched with faint scars from kitchen mishaps. I caught myself staring before, late at night in my dorm room, scrolling through old family photos, wondering why my pulse quickened at the sight of him. It wasn't right. It couldn't be. But secrets have a way of festering, don't they? Like the ones I'd buried deep since high school, when the locker room jokes about fairies made me learn to laugh along while my stomach twisted. "Alex, get in here, kid. Help me with the ribs," Dad bellowed from the grill, waving a pair of tongs like a scepter. I dragged myself up, the grass cool under my sneakers, and weaved through the chatter. Marcus was already inside, commandeering the kitchen as usual, his broad back to me as he rummaged through the fridge for marinades. The screen door slapped shut behind me, sealing us in that golden pocket of warmth, the outside world muffled to a distant roar. He turned, flashing that grin, the one that crinkled the corners of his eyes and made my knees feel like they might give. "Hey, stranger, Berkeley treating you all right? Or are you still quoting Kerouac like it's going to get you laid?" His voice was low, teasing, with that gravelly edge from too many late nights and cigarettes he swore he'd quit. I laughed, too loud, shoving my hands in my pockets to hide the sudden clamminess. "It's fine. Lots of reading. Not much else. Lies, of course. There was that one guy in my lit class, the one with the poetry tattoo and the shy smile, but it fizzled before it started. Nothing like this pull, this ache I felt standing 3 feet from Marcus." He nodded, pulling out a bottle of bourbon and setting it on the counter with a thud. "Your old man's got me on sauce duty. Says the ribs need a kick." He uncorked it, pouring a splash into a bowl, his movements precise, almost graceful for a man his size. I grabbed the knife he'd laid out, hacking at an onion like it had personally offended me, tears stinging my eyes not just from the fumes. That's when it happened. The blade nicked the cutting board wrong, veering toward my thumb. It clattered free, spinning wildly, and before I could react, Marcus was there, his body heat radiating like a furnace, his hand enveloping mine in a grip that was both rescue and ruin. Time stretched, the kitchen fading to a blur of stainless steel and herbs. His skin against mine was rough, warm, electric. His thumb traced a slow circle on my pulse point, as if testing the frantic beat beneath. Our eyes locked, and in that hazel-brown collision I saw it. Recognition. Hunger. Fear. "You okay?" he murmured, voice barely above a whisper, but his hand didn't let go. "Not yet." I nodded, throat dry as the Santa Ana winds. Yeah, just clumsy. But my body betrayed me, a shiver racing up my spine, settling low in my gut. Days. It would haunt me for days, that touch, like a brand, searing questions I wasn't ready to answer. He released me slowly, fingers trailing just a fraction too long, then stepped back, clearing his throat. Careful, Alex. World's full of sharp edges. He busied himself with the bowl, stirring vigorously, but the air between us hummed, charged like the storm clouds gathering over the bay. We worked in silence after that, side by side, the clink of utensils a fragile barrier. Outside, laughter swelled, Dad toasting to freedom, Mia squealing at a sparkler. Freedom. The word mocked me as I glanced at Marcus's profile, the strong line of his jaw, the way his lips parted slightly when he concentrated. What would Dad say if he knew? If he saw the way my gaze lingered, the way my heart hammered, not from fear of the knife, but from the man who'd saved me from it? By the time we carried the platters out, the sun had surrendered to twilight, strings of lights twinkling like hesitant stars. I set the ribs down amid cheers, but my hands trembled, the ghost of his touch lingering like smoke. Marcus caught my eye across the table, a flicker of something unspoken passing between us. Promise? Warning? I couldn't tell. All I knew was that the night stretched ahead, full of shadows and secrets, and I was already lost in them. As the evening wore on, plates emptied and stories flowed, I found excuses to orbit him, refilling his drink, brushing past to grab napkins, each proximity a spark against dry tinder. He played it cool, that effortless charm masking whatever storm brewed beneath. But late, when the crowd thinned and Mia dozed on a lawn chair, he cornered me by the garage, handing me a spare jacket against the chill. Cold out here, he said, his voice rougher now, edged with the bourbon weed shared in stolen sips. His fingers grazed my shoulder as he draped the fabric over me. Denim, worn soft, smelling of him. Cedar and smoke. Another touch, deliberate this time, sending that shiver cascading anew. Thanks, I whispered, looking up. The porch light cast his face in half shadow, making him look both savior and sinner. He hesitated, hand lingering on my arm. You've grown up, Alex. Not the kid chasing fireflies anymore. His eyes searched mine, dark and searching. Be careful who you let get close. The words hung heavy, laced with meaning I ached to unravel. Before I could respond, Dad's voice cut through the night. Marcus, one more round. And he was gone, striding back to the fire pit, leaving me wrapped in his scent, shaking not from the cold, but from the fire he'd ignited. That night, I lay awake in my childhood bed, sheets tangled, replaying the kitchen in endless loops. His hand on mine, the circle of his thumb, the way his breath had hitched, just for a moment. Sleep evaded me, chased away by questions that clawed at my chest. Was it real? Did he feel it too? And what the hell was I supposed to do with a heart that betrayed me for my father's best friend? Morning came too soon, sunlight slicing through the blinds like accusations. Downstairs, the house stirred. Mom humming in the kitchen, Dad clattering coffee mugs, Marcus's truck rumbling to life in the driveway. I bolted upright, pulse racing, and peered out the window, just in time to see him pause at the door, glancing up at my room. Our eyes met through the glass, a silent pact forming in that gaze. Then he was gone, tires crunching gravel, leaving a void that echoed louder than any touch. The days blurred after that. I threw myself into summer. Internship shifts at a local bookstore in Temescal, late-night drives along the Embarcadero with playlists full of indie folk that mirrored my turmoil. But Marcus haunted the edges, a text from Dad mentioning their fishing trip up to Tahoe, a photo on Instagram of him at a farmer's market in the Mission, arms laden with heirloom tomatoes, that grin flashing like a beacon. Each glimpse twisted the knife, that initial touch evolving into an obsession I couldn't shake. One humid afternoon, 2 weeks later, Dad dragged me to Marcus's place, a converted warehouse loft in Jack London Square, all exposed brick and potted ferns overlooking the estuary. Help him with the catering prep for the block party, Dad said, clapping my back. Man's swamped. And hey, catch up. Tell him about that philosophy crap you're studying. I nodded, stomach nodding as we pulled up. The door swung open before we knocked, Marcus filling the frame in a faded tee and jeans, flour dusted across his chest like war paint. Tom. Alex. Right on time. His hug for Dad was back-slapping camaraderie. For me, a quick shoulder squeeze that lingered a beat too long, his breath warm against my ear. "Good to see you, kid." The loft smelled of garlic and basil, counters buried under chopping boards and bubbling pots. Dad dove in, bantering about old jobs while wielding a peeler like a pro. I hung back, tasked with stirring risotto, but my focus splintered every time Marcus brushed past, his hip against mine at the sink, his hand steadying the pot as he leaned in to check the flame. "Easy there," he'd murmur, voice low, and I'd nod, cheeks burning, the memory of the kitchen flooding back tenfold. By midday, Dad stepped out for ice, be back in 10, leaving us alone in the steamy haze. The silence stretched, thick as the humidity rolling off the bay. Marcus wiped his hands on a towel, turning to me with that unreadable look. "You've been quiet. Everything all right?" I swallowed, gripping the spoon like a lifeline. "Yeah, just thinking about you, about that night, about how your touch rewires everything." He stepped closer, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his eyes, the faint scar above his lip from some long-ago bar fight. "Alex," he said softly, my name a confession on his tongue. "That day in the kitchen, I didn't mean to." "Don't," I cut in, voice cracking. "It wasn't a mistake." The words tumbled out, reckless, raw. It was the first real thing I've felt in forever. His breath caught, and then his hand was on my cheek, thumb tracing my jawline with a tenderness that buckled my knees. Time fractured again, the risotto forgotten, the world narrowing to his touch, warmer now, intentional. He pulled me in, foreheads touching, noses brushing, and whispered, "God, what are we doing?" Kissing him was like falling into the estuary, deep, consuming, the salt of unspoken years on his lips. His arms wrapped around me, strong and sure, and I melted into him, hands fisting his shirt, chasing the spark that had smoldered since that knife slipped. It was messy, urgent, teeth clashing, breaths mingling, then softened, his fingers threading through my hair as if memorizing me. The door rattled, Dad's keys jangling, and we sprang apart, hearts thundering. He smoothed my hair, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. "To be continued," he breathed, and I nodded, dazed, the shake returning not in fear, but in fierce, terrified want. Dad burst in, oblivious, arms full of bags. "Traffic's a bitch. What's for lunch?" We laughed it off, plating pasta with trembling hands, but the air crackled with our secret, a current humming beneath the surface. That kiss lingered like a bruise, sweet, aching. Text started that night. Innocent at first, great risotto, thanks for the help, then bolder, can't stop thinking about your smile. I saved every one, rereading in the dark, my body alive with possibility. We met in stolen moments, a coffee run in Berkeley where his knee pressed mine under the table, a hike in Tilden Park, his hand slipping into mine on a secluded trail, pulling me behind an oak for a kiss that left us both breathless. But shadows loomed. Dad noticed my distraction, ribbing me about puppy love over breakfast. "Who's the girl, son?" "Speed." I deflected, guilt gnawing like acid. Marcus, too, pulled back sometimes, eyes distant as we parted. "This is dangerous, Alex. Your dad. He's my brother in all but blood." "I know." I'd whisper, tracing his knuckles. "But it's real." Summer deepened, the heat mirroring the fire between us. One evening, after a jazz fest in the Fillmore, we ended up at his loft, the city lights twinkling like conspirators below. Wine flowed, loosening tongues and inhibitions. We talked for hours, his divorce 5 years back, the ex-wife who couldn't handle his wandering artist soul, my fears of coming out in a family that preached acceptance but whispered judgments at church barbecues. "I see you, Alex," he said, cupping my face. "All of you. And it's beautiful." We made love that night, slow and reverent, his body a map of scars and stories I traced with lips and fingers. He was gentle, guiding, whispering praises that shattered my doubts. In his arms, I wasn't the confused kid anymore. I was seen, wanted whole. Dawn crept in, painting us in gold, and for the first time, the shaking eased into something steady, hope. Yet cracks formed. Mia, sharp as a tack, cornered me one afternoon. "You're weird lately, Alex. Glowing or something. Who's making you smile like that?" I brushed it off, but her eyes narrowed, suspicious. Worse came from Dad. A casual beer with Marcus turned probing. You two seem tight. Anything I should know? Marcus laughed it away, just mentoring the kid, but later alone he paced the loft, worry etching lines deeper. We can't keep this up. It'll destroy him. Us. Don't, I pleaded, pulling him close. We can figure it out. But fate intervened. The annual Labor Day cookout at our house, bigger than July's, with aunts, uncles, the whole extended clan from Sacramento. Marcus arrived early, helping set up, his presence a magnetic pull. I stole touches in passing, a brush of fingers loading the cooler, a shared glance over the grill that promised later. Disaster struck at dusk. I'd slipped inside for ice, Marcus following under pretense of grabbing tongs. The kitchen again, our origin, our undoing. He pinned me against the counter, kiss fierce and desperate, hands roaming with the urgency of too many denied nights. Missed you, he growled against my neck. Lost in him, I didn't hear the door. Footsteps. A gasp. Dad stood there, beer in hand, face draining of color. What the hell is this? Time froze. Marcus pulled back, hands raised like a surrender. Tom, wait. But Dad's eyes locked on me, betrayal raw. Alex? Him? My best friend. The bottle shattered on the floor, foam hissing like accusation. I stammered hard in my throat. Dad, it's not. Save it. He stormed out, the screen door slamming like a guillotine. Shouts erupted outside, guests murmuring, Mom's voice rising in confusion. Marcus reached for me, but I flinched, the shake returning tenfold, world crumbling. He followed Dad to the backyard, voices low and furious filtering through the window. How long, Marcus? How long have you been? With my son. It's not like that. We don't. God, I trusted you. A pause, heavy. Get out. Both of you. Marcus returned, face ashen. I have to go. Give him time. His kiss was goodbye, soft and shattering. I love you, Alex. Whatever happens. Then he was gone, truck roaring into the night, leaving me amid shards of glass and shattered illusions. The fallout was biblical. Dad barely spoke to me for days, holing up in his study with bottles of scotch. Mom hovered, tearful, alternating between hugs and lectures on family values. Mia, bless her, snuck me notes. It's okay to be you. Dad's just scared. I spiraled, nights pacing the porch, staring at the bay's black waters, replaying every touch, every whisper. Was it worth it? The pain clawed deep, but beneath it, a truth burned. Yes. Loving Marcus had awakened me, forced me to claim the parts I'd hidden. Texts from him came sporadic. Miss you. Holding on. Then silence, a void that echoed my isolation. 2 weeks in, rock bottom hit. Dad and I exploded in the living room, him raging about betrayal, me firing back about authenticity. You think it's easy hiding who I am? For you? For everyone. Tears streamed, voices breaking. I love him, Dad, and he loves me. Isn't that enough? He deflated, sinking into the couch, head in hands. I just wanted to protect you. From hurt. From this world. We talked then, raw and real. His own regrets, a college fling he'd buried. The fear of losing me like he'd lost his own father young. Marcus is a good man, he admitted finally, voice thick. If he makes you happy. Forgiveness didn't come easy, but it came. A tentative dinner, just us three, where silences spoke volumes. And Marcus, after a tearful call, he returned. Not as friend, but as partner, standing tall in our kitchen, hand in mine as Dad extended a beer. Welcome back, he said gruffly. But hurt him, and you're done. The shake faded that night, replaced by a quiet strength. We built slow, dates in hidden cafes, weekends in Big Sur where ocean waves drowned our doubts. Marcus taught me to knead dough, his hands over mine, turning flour into forgiveness. I showed him my poems, vulnerable verses he'd read with eyes shining. Months later, as autumn leaves turned the hills gold, we stood on the Golden Gate Bridge, wind whipping our scarves. This is us, he said, pulling me close. Shaky start, but solid now. I leaned in, kissing him under the vast sky, worth every tremble. In the end, love wasn't the touch that shook me. It was the courage to hold on after. And in each other's arms, we found not just romance, but redemption. For secrets shared, for families mended, for hearts brave enough to beat true.